अर्ज़े पाकिस्तान तुझे सलाम। पाकिस्तान हमेशा जिंदाबाद। यौम आज़ादी और मार्का हक में कामयाबी का जश्न मनाने के लिए तैयारियां उरूज पर। मुल्क भर में जश्न का समा। गलियां, बाजार कौमी परचमों और झंडियों से सज गए। जगह जगह स्टॉल, शहरी बड़ी तादाद में खरीदारी में मसरूफ।
जुर्रत, हिम्मत, कुव्वत, ताकत, जुर्रत, हिम्मत, जज्बा, मेहनत जिनकी अलामत है। ऐसा मेरा देश है, ऐसे मेरे लोग, मिलकर कहो बुलंद आवाज। आग सरज़मीं शादबाद, आग सरज़मीं शादबाद।
यौम आज़ादी पर जवाद अहमद का वलवला अंगेज पुरजोश नगमा जारी। नगमे के बोल पाक सरजमीन शादबाद कौमी तराने से अक्स हैं। पाकिस्तानी कौम को पुरहिम्मत, बहादुर और मेहनती कौम के तौर पर बयान किया गया है। ये नगमा अक़वाम पाकिस्तान की खूबसूरती, जोश और जज्बात की अक्कासी करता है। ये नगमा हुब्बुल वतनी और कौम परस्ती जगाने की भरपूर सलाहियत रखता है। हर बोल में इतिहाद और पाक सरजमीन से मोहब्बत झलकती है।
परिंदों की दुनिया का दरवेश हूँ मैं, ये शाही बनाता नहीं आशियाना। मिलकर कहो बुलंद आवाज।
जब सरज़मीं ने पुकारा, सोचा न हमने दोबारा।
यौम आज़ादी कुर्बानी, इत्तेहाद और अज़्म हौसले की रोशन दास्तान की अलामत। ये अहद की तजदीद और हमारे बुजुर्गों की कुर्बानियों को याद करने का दिन हमें बताता है कि आज़ादी तवील जिद्दोजहद और बेमिसाल कुर्बानियों का नतीजा है। कोई हमें कमजोर न समझे। जब दिल में पाकिस्तान लिखा हो तो खौफ धरा रह जाता है। यौम आज़ादी मार्का हक, शहरियों की ज़बानी पाकिस्तान से मोहब्बत का अहद।
मुल्क भर में यौम आज़ादी का जोश व जज्बा उरूज पर। पेशावर शहर की सड़कों पर जश्न आज़ादी के SMD फ्लोट्स रवां-दवां। मकसद जश्न आज़ादी की खुशियों को हर घर और हर दिल तक पहुंचाना है। 13 अगस्त की रात कर्नल शेर खान स्टेडियम में शानदार जश्न का इनेकाद होगा। शहरियों की बड़ी तादाद इस तारीखी तकरीब में शिरकत के लिए पुरजोश।
हुकूमत की कामयाब माशी पॉलिसियों पर सरमायाकारों का बढ़ता एतमाद। नए कारोबारी हफ्ते के आगाज पर पाकिस्तान स्टॉक मार्केट में तेजी का रुझान। 100 इंडेक्स में 1000 से ज्यादा पॉइंट्स का इजाफा। इंडेक्स 1,40,000 की सतह उबूर कर गया।
अक़लियतों के हुकूक का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ न सिर्फ आईनी जिम्मेदारी बल्कि हमारा मजहबी फरीज़ा भी है। पाकिस्तान में अक़लियतों को आइन के तहत तमाम सियासी, माशी और समाजी हकूक हासिल हैं। बिला तफरीक रंग व नस्ल यक जुबान होकर मुल्की फ़राइज़ की बाएहसन अदायगी के अज़्म का अदा करते हैं। वज़ीर आज़म मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ और सदर आसिफ अली ज़रदारी का अक़लियतों के कौमी दिन पर पैगाम।
पाकिस्तान की सालमियत और बका के लिए हम सब एक हैं। हम सियासी इंतकाम पर यकीन नहीं रखते, मसाइल के हल के लिए मिलकर काम कर रहे हैं। अक़लियतों की फलाह बहबूद भी हमारी तरजीहात में शामिल है। अक़लियतों की फलाह बहबूद के लिए इक़दाम करते रहेंगे। जबरी मजहब की तब्दीली की इजाज़त कानून और दीन दोनों ही नहीं देते। वज़ीर आला सिंध मुराद अली शाह।
इजराइल का गजा पर कब्जे का ऐलान, खतरनाक इकदाम, फलस्तीनियों को बेदखल करने की साजिश। पाकिस्तान की गजा पर कब्जे की इजरायली काबीना के फैसले की शदीद मुज़ाम्मत। गजा फलस्तीन का हिस्सा है, कोई इसे जुदा नहीं कर सकता। मुसलसल बमबारी और मुहासरा गजा को इंसानी अलमिया की जानिब धकेल रहा है। लाखों फलस्तीनी बेघर हो चुके हैं। आलमी बरादरी इजरायली जारियत रुकवाने के लिए मौसर इक़दाम करे। गजा में फौरी जंग बंदी और कैदियों की रिहाई का मुतालबा। अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा में पाकिस्तान के मुस्तकिल मंदूब आसिम इफ्तिखार अहमद का सलामती काउंसिल के इजलास से खिताब।
गजा के मुख्तलिफ इलाकों पर काबिज इसराइली फोर्सेस के वहशियाना हमले, 50 से ज़ायद फ़लस्तीनी शहीद, मुतअद्दिद ज़ख्मी। शहदा में इमदाद के मुंतज़िर 23 फ़लस्तीनी भी शामिल। इसराइली हमलों में 5 सहाफ़ी भी जान की बाजी हार गए। कनाडा, फ्रांस, बरतानिया के बाद ऑस्ट्रेलिया का भी आइंदमा अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा की जनरल असम्बली के इजलास में फ़लस्तीनी रियासत को तस्लीम करने का फैसला।
गिलगित के इलाके दनियोर में मट्टी का तोदा गिरने से जाँ भाग अफराद सिपुर्द खाक। नमाज जनाजा में मरहूमीन के अहल खाना, अजीज़ व अकारिब और इलाके के अवाम की बड़ी तादाद ने शिरकत की। गुज़श्ता रात दनियोर में वाटर चैनल की बहाली के दौरान मट्टी का तोदा गिरने से 7 अफराद जाँ भाग जबकि 5 जख्मी हो गए थे। वज़ीर आला गिलगित बल्तिस्तान का वाक़े में कीमती जानों के ज़िया पर इज़हार अफसोस।
गिलगित बल्तिस्तान में ग्लेशियर्स के अमल में तेज़ी। दरियाए हुंजा में पानी के बहाव में इजाफा। हसनाबाद में शेषबर ग्लेशियर्स के पिघलाव से शाहरा कराक्रम का राबता मुनक़ता। शेषबर ग्लेशियर से आने वाला पानी के तेज़ बहाव की वजह से मुसलसल ज़मीनी कटाव और तबाही का सिलसिला जारी।
उत्तरकाशी सानेहा मोदी सरकार की नाक़िस मनसूबाबंदी बेनकाब। सैलाब और मट्टी के तौदे गिरने से मुतादिद भारतीय फौजी, 50 से ज़ायद अफराद लापता। मकान, सड़कें, बस्तियां और भारतीय फौजी तंसीबात भी तबाह। गोदी मीडिया भी फौजी नुकसानात को छुपा कर मोदी राज के झूठे प्रोपेगेंडे में मसरूफ। ये हादसा नाक़िस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और हुकूमती बद इंतजामी का वाज़ेह सबूत है।
शुहदाए पाकिस्तान को सलाम। कैप्टन उज़ैर महमूद मलिक शहीद की पहली बरसी आज मनाई जा रही है। कैप्टन उज़ैर ने गुज़श्ता बरस वादिय तीरा में दिफ़ाए वतन में जान कुर्बान की। शहीद के वालिदैन ने बेटी की शहादत पर फ़ख्र का इजहार किया। हमारा यकीन है कि शहदा चुने हुए लोग होते हैं। शहादतों का ये सफ़र पाकिस्तान के वजूद में आने से लेकर अब तक जारी है।
पाकिस्तान वेस्ट इंडीज वनडे क्रिकेट सीरीज तरोबा में दूसरा मैच। बारिश से मुतासरा मैच में वेस्ट इंडीज की 5 विकेटों से कामयाबी। मेजबान टीम ने डकवर्थ लुइस मेथड के तहत 181 रन का हदफ 33.2 ओवर्स में 5 विकेटों के नुकसान पर हासिल कर लिया। 3 मैचेस की सीरीज 1-1 से बराबर। फैसला कुन मैच कल खेला जाएगा। सीरीज देखिए PTV स्पोर्ट्स HD पर बराह रास्त।
अमरीकी रियासत ओहायो में ATP 1000 सिनसिनाटी ओपन टेनिस। स्पेन के कार्लोस अल्काराज तीसरे मरहले में पहुंच गए। अमेरिका के रॉयली ओप्लेका, रूस के आंद्रे रूबलोव भी अपने मैचेस में कामयाब। जमहूरिया चेक के जैकब मम्फिक और जेरी लैक्का भी राउंड ऑफ 32 में पहुंच गए।
अमेरिका में WTA मास्टर्स 1000 सिनसिनाटी ओपन वर्ल्ड नंबर 1 बेलारूस की अरीना सबालेंका का एजाज के दिफा के लिए सफर कामयाबी से जारी। तीसरे मरहले में पहुंच गई। अमेरिका की मैडिसन और कोको गॉफ भी अगले राउंड में जगह पक्की करने में कामयाब।
And that's with the right points. Cincinnati Open is through to the third round.
और चेंगडू चीन में 12वें वर्ल्ड गेम्स के मुकाबले जारी। पोलैंड की जूलिया का फ्री डाइविंग में नया आलमी रिकॉर्ड। ताइवान की खवातीन टग ऑफ वॉर टीम ने लगातार 6ठा तिलाई तमगा जीत लिया। मर्दों की ओरिएंटिंग स्प्रिंट रेस में बेल्जियम ने गोल्ड मेडल अपने नाम किया। खवातीन का तमगा स्विट्जरलैंड के नाम रहा। जिम्नास्टिक में स्पेन के जिम्नास्ट फाते रहे।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम। आप देख रहे हैं पाकिस्तान टेलीविजन न्यूज़। मैं हूं अयाज असलम
और मैं हूं उस्मा चौधरी।
अपना जान का, उड़े ऊंचा अपना परचम पाकिस्तान का, उड़े ऊंचा अपना परचम पाकिस्तान का।
पाकिस्तान के यौम आज़ादी के मौके पर जवाद अहमद का नगमा जारी किया गया है। नगमे के बोल पाक सरजमीन शाद बात कौमी तराने की पहली सतर से अखज़ किए गए हैं।
नगमे में पाकिस्तानी कौम को एक पुरहिम्मत, बहादुर और मेहनती कौम के तौर पर बयान किया गया है। ये नगमा पाकिस्तान की खूबसूरती, जोश और जज्बात की अक्कासी करता है और माल के हक में मिलने वाली शानदार फतह कौमी इत्तेहाद का एक वाज़ेह सबूत है।
जज्बा मेहनत जिनकी अलामत है, ऐसा मेरा देश है, ऐसे मेरे लोग, मिलकर कहो बुलंद आवाज़। पाक सरज़मीन शादबाद, पाक सरज़मीन शादबाद। उकाब की तरह जियो, शेर की मानंद लड़ो, मेरे वतन के पुरस्कार बंदो। झपटना पलटना, पलट कर झपटना, लहू गर्म रखने का है एक बहाना। परिंदों की दुनिया का दरवेश हूँ मैं, ये शाही बनाता नहीं आशियाना। मिलकर कहो बुलंद आवाज़। पाक सरज़मीन शादबाद, पाक सरज़मीन शादबाद।
यौम आज़ादी पाकिस्तान कुर्बानी, इत्तेहाद और अज़्म हौसले की रोशन दास्तान है जो हमारे बुजुर्गों की बेमिसाल जिद्दोजहद का नतीजा है।
पाकिस्तान के क़याम के लिए लाखों मुसलमानों ने जानो माल की कुर्बानियाँ दी। महाजरीन की हिजरत और जंगी हालात की कड़ी आजमाइशें थीं। कायदे आज़म मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना की मुखलिसाना क़यादत और अल्लामा इकबाल के नज़रियात ने इस तहरीक को मजबूती बख्शी। शहरियों ने यौम आज़ादी के मौके पर अपने जज्बात का इज़हार करते हुए कहा कि पाकिस्तान हमारी शान, हमारी पहचान और यही कुर्बानियाँ हमारी ताकत का राज हैं।
खौफ धरा रह जाता है,
बंद गली खुल जाती है,
मंजिल खुद मिल जाती है।
इसको चाहने वालों में
अपना नाम लाया है,
रोशन कल सरसब्ज यकीन है,
मुश्किल की दीवार गिराकर आगे बढ़ते जाना है।
सर को झुका के सजदे में जब कहते हैं हम पाकिस्तान।
पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद।
जब सरज़मीन ने पुकारा, सोचा ना।
आपको लिए चलेंगे पेशावर। पेशावर में यौम आज़ादी का जोश और जज्बा उरूज पर है। हर तरफ कौमी परचमों की बहार है।
शहर की मुख्तलिफ सड़कों पर जश्न आज़ादी के 4 SMD फ्रूट्स रवा दवा हैं। ये फ्रूट 14 अगस्त तक शहर के मुख्तलिफ इलाकों में गश्त करते रहेंगे। इनका मकसद जश्न आज़ादी की खुशियों को हर घर और हर दिल तक पहुँचाना है। 13 अगस्त की शब कर्नल शेर खान स्टेडियम पेशावर में शानदार जश्न आज़ादी की तकरीब का इनेकाद होगा। शहरियों की बड़ी तादाद इस तारीखी तकरीब में शिरकत के लिए पुरजोश है। नीलम वादी के केल इलाके में कल्चरल फेस्टिवल का इनेकाद किया गया, जिसमें पाक फौज और आज़ाद कश्मीर कल्चरल अकेडमी ने हिस्सा लिया।
स्कूल के बच्चों के टैबलोस, कॉलेज तलबा के शना गीत और रिवायती गटका रक्स ने मेले को खास रंग दिया। जश्न आज़ादी और मार्का हक की कामयाबी पर जोशीली तकारीर हुई। माहौलियाती तहफ़्फ़ुज़ और सयाहत के फ़रोग़ पर भी जोर दिया गया। मेहमान खुसूसी चीफ सेक्रेटरी खुशहाल खान ने इनामात तकसीम किए, जबकि अवाम ने अफ़वाज पाकिस्तान को तारीखी फतह पर ज़बरदस्त अल्फाज में खिराज तहसीन पेश किया।
लबों पे हर घड़ी रहे यही कलाम, सलाम हो मेरे वतन तुझे सलाम।
पाकिस्तान की कहानी उन लोगों की जुबानी जिन्होंने आज़ादी की कीमत कुर्बानियां देकर चुकाई है।
यौम आज़ादी के मौके पर आज़ाद जम्मू कश्मीर से ताल्लुक़ रखने वाले इंजीनियर मोहम्मद सादिक खान से खुसूसी मुलाकात की गई। आज़ाद कश्मीर के हीरो मोहम्मद सादिक खान जद्दोजहद आज़ादी का हिस्सा रह चुके हैं। इंजीनियर मोहम्मद सादिक खान का कहना था, हम जानते थे कि एक मुल्क ऐसा बना है जहाँ ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह मुहम्मदुर रसूलुल्लाह कानून होगा। कश्मीर को आज़ाद कराने वालों का एक नज़रिया यह भी था कि ये मुल्क इस्लामी हो। इस्लाम के नाम पर मुल्क बनने के बाद हिंदुओं के साथ रहने का कोई जवाब नहीं आ रहा था। पाकिस्तान बनने की खबर मिलते ही हिंदुओं ने मुसलमानों को खत्म करने का मंसूबा बनाया था।
हिंदुओं के साथ रहने का और कोई जवाब नहीं बनता। जब पाकिस्तान पता लग गया कि बन गया तो इन लोगों ने फिर ये कोई प्रोग्राम बनाया हिंदुओं ने कि यहाँ के जो मुसलमान हैं इनको ख़त्म किया जाए। पाकिस्तान बनने के बाद फिर लोगों ने शादियाने भी बनाए, लेकिन हमें उसके बाद के जज्बात ये हैं कि पाकिस्तान ने हमें जो आज़ादी दी है यहाँ, ये आज़ादी तो किसी कौम को भी नहीं है।
और कैप्टन उज़ैर महमूद मलिक शहीद की पहली बरसी अकीदतो एहतराम के साथ मनाई जा रही है।
24 साला कैप्टन उज़ैर ने 11 अगस्त 2014 को वादी तीराह में दुश्मनों के खिलाफ बहादुरी से लड़ते हुए जाम शहादत नोश किया। वो पीएमए से 2020 में फारिग तहसील हुए और बलोच रेजिमेंट में खिदमत सर अंजाम दे रहे थे। उनके वालिद ने कहा कि उज़ैर इंतहाई ज़हीन और बहादुर था और शहादत उसका मुकद्दर थी। पूरा पाकिस्तान उन शहीदों को सलाम पेश करता है जो वतन की हिफाजत में अपनी जान कुर्बान करते हैं। और बर्रे सगीर की आज़ादी की जद्दोजहद में अकाबरीन का किरदार तारीख का रोशन बाब है। उनकी फिक्री, मिली और सियासी जद्दोजहद ने गुलामी की तारीकी में आज़ादी की शमा रोशन की, जो आज भी आने वाली नस्लों के लिए मशले राह है।
रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं फरहान मिर्जा।
तहरीक पाकिस्तान का मकसद सिर्फ मुसलमानों के मफादात का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करते हुए अलग वतन का क़याम था। बरे सगीर पाक व हिंद में मुसलमानों के साथ इम्तियाजी सलूक के बाद 19वीं सदी के आखिर में सर सैयद अहमद खान ने मुसलमानों को नई फिक्र और शौर से आगाह किया। मुफक्किर पाकिस्तान इलामा मोहम्मद इकबाल ने 1930 में मुस्लिम अक्सरती इलाकों पर मुश्तमिल नई रियासत का तस्वुर पेश किया। 1930 से 1940 के दौरान अंग्रेजों और हिंदुओं की जानिब से मुसलमानों के इत्तिसाल की चालें जारी रहने के बाद 1940 में सरजमीन लाहौर में करार दादे पाकिस्तान की मंजूरी हुई और यूं तहरीक पाकिस्तान का बाकायदा आगाज हुआ। 1940 से 1947 के दौरान अजीम लीडर कायदे आजम मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना, लियाकत अली खान, मादरे मिल्लत मोहतरमा फातिमा जिन्ना, फजलुल हक, ख्वाजा नाजमुद्दीन, आगा खान सोइम, चौधरी रहमत अली, अब्दुर्रब निश्तर और हुसैन सरवर्दी ने अपनी अनथक कोशिशों और पुरअमन जद्दोजहद की बदौलत नामुमकिन को मुमकिन कर दिखाया। तालीम, सियासत, माशियत, समाज, गर्ज जिंदगी के हर शोबे में मुसलमानों की रहनुमाई की गई और मुस्लिम कौम को दो कौमी नजरिए के झंडे तले इकट्ठा किया गया। मुसलमानों ने कायदे आज़म के सुनहरी असूलों और दीगर रहनुमाओं के अक़वाल और जद्दोजहद की रोशनी में नई सीमत का तयन किया और मुकम्मल यकसुई के साथ अलग वतन के हसूल की मंजिल की जानिब रवां दवा रहे और आखिरकार 14 अगस्त 1947 का सूरज तलू हुआ जब ख्वाब ने हकीकत का रूप धारा और अक़वाम आलम में एक अजीम वतन का वजूद अमल में आया। बेमिसाल कुर्बानी और पुरअमन जद्दोजहद के बाद हासिल किए गए हमारे प्यारे वतन पाकिस्तान के इस्तेकाम और खुशहाली के लिए जरूरी है कि माशरे का हर एक फर्द तहरीक पाकिस्तान के अजीम रहनुमाओं के वज़ा करदा असूलों पर अमल पैरा हो। फरहान मिर्जा, पाकिस्तान टेलीविजन न्यूज़, मुल्तान।
पाकिस्तान स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में तेजी का रुझान देखने में आ रहा है और 100 इंडेक्स 1000 से ज़ायद पॉइंट्स के इजाफे के बाद 1,40,390 पर ट्रेड कर रहा है।
माहिरीन का कहना है कि हुकूमत की काविशों और इक्तिसादी पॉलिसीज़ की बदौलत मुल्क की मईशत मुस्तहकम हो रही है। न सिर्फ तमाम मुआशी इशारिये मुस्बत रुझान जाहिर कर रहे हैं, बल्कि अमरीका समेत मुख्तलिफ ममालिक के साथ तजारत के फ़रोग के लिए किए जाने वाले इक़दामात से सरमायाकारों के एतमाद में इजाफा हो रहा है और वो कैपिटल मार्केट में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा सरमायाकारी कर रहे हैं। कुछ बुलेटिन में बात करेंगे अक़लियतों के कौमी दिन की और इस पर वज़ीर-ए-आज़म का पैगाम शामिल करेंगे। वज़ीर-ए-आज़म मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ ने कहा है कि पाकिस्तान में अक़लियतों को आइन के तहत तमाम सियासी, मुआशी और समाजी हकूक़ हासिल हैं।
वज़ीर-ए-आज़म मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ ने अक़लियतों के कौमी दिन पर अपने पैगाम में कहा कि अक़लियतों के हकूक़ का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ न सिर्फ आइनी ज़िम्मेदारी बल्कि ये हमारा मज़हबी फ़रीज़ा भी है। वज़ीर-ए-आज़म ने कहा कि आज हम बानी पाकिस्तान की अक़लियतों के बारे में फ़रमुदात और इस्लामी तालीमात की रोशनी में अक़लियतों की मज़हबी आज़ादी और यकसा हकूक़ के लिए हमा वक्त कोशा रहने के लिए अहद की तजदीद करते हैं। कायद की 11 अगस्त 1947 की तारीखी तकरीर पाकिस्तान में अक़लियतों के महफूज मुस्तक़बिल की नज़रियाती ज़मानत है। उन्होंने कहा कि अक़लियत से ताल्लुक़ रखने वाले कई पाकिस्तानी सपूतों ने मुल्क के दिफा के लिए अपनी जानों का नजराना दिया। हम उनको दिल की गहराइयों से खिराज तहसीन पेश करते हैं। सदर आसिफ अली ज़रदारी ने अक़लियतों के हकूक़ के तहफ़्फ़ुज़ के लिए अपने आज़म का इयादा किया है।
अक़लियतों के कौमी दिन पर अपने पैगाम में सदर ममलकत ने कहा कि ये दिन कायदे आज़म मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना के उस तसव्वुर की याद दहानी है जिसके तहत पाकिस्तान के हर शहरी को बराबरी, हम आहंगी और बाहमी एहतराम के साथ ज़िंदगी गुजारने का हक़ हासिल है। आइन में तमाम शहरियों को बिला तफरीक, मजहब, ज़ात पात, रंग या नस्ल के मसावी हकूक़ की ज़मानत दी गई है। पाकिस्तान ने अक़लियतों की फ़लाह बहबूद और उन्हें बाइख्तियार बनाने के लिए मुतादिद इक़दामात किए हैं। 2009 में हुकूमत ने 11 अगस्त को अक़लियतों के दिन के तौर पर मनाने का ऐलान किया। उन्होंने अक़लियती बिरादरियों को बाइख्तियार बनाने और उनकी तरक्की और फ़लाह बहबूद के लिए काम जारी रखने के अज़्म का इयादा किया। आगे बढ़ते हुए यहाँ पर आपको बताते हैं कि स्पीकर कौमी असम्बली सरदार अयाज सादिक कहते हैं कि पाकिस्तान की तरक्की में अक़लियती बिरादरी का किरदार लायक तहसीन है।
उन्होंने कहा कि पाकिस्तान में बसने वाली अक़लियतों ने हमेशा मुल्की इस्तेहकाम, बैनुल मज़ाहिब हम-आहंगी और कौमी यकजहती के फ़रोग़ में अहम किरदार अदा किया। कौमी मामलात में अक़लियतों की शमूलियत हमारी जमहूरी रिवायात का रोशन पहलू है। वफाकी वज़ीर दाखिला मोहसिन नकवी ने अक़लियतों के कौमी दिन के मौके पर अपने पैगाम में कहा है कि पाकिस्तान दीन इस्लाम के सुनहरी उसूलों, अदल, मसावात और रवादारी पर कायम हुआ और इन्हीं बुनियादों पर हमेशा कायम रहेगा।
पाकिस्तान में बसने वाला हर शहरी खा किसी भी मजहब से ताल्लुक़ रखता हो बराबर का पाकिस्तानी है। और वज़ीर आला सिंध सैयद मुराद अली शाह ने अक़लियतों के कौमी दिन पर उन्हें मुबारकबाद पेश करते हुए कहा है कि पाकिस्तान में तमाम शहरियों को मसावी हकूक़ हासिल हैं। मुश्किल वक्त में सब मुत्तहिद होकर मुल्क का दिफा करते हैं।
वज़ीर आला सिंध सैयद मुराद अली शाह ने कौमी अक़लियती दिन पर स्वामी नारायण मंदिर में तकरीब से खिताब में कहा कि आसिफ अली ज़रदारी ने अपने पहले सदारती दौर में अक़लियती दिन मनाने का आगाज़ किया। शहीद ज़ुल्फ़िकार अली भुट्टो ने 1973 के आइन में अक़लियतों को तहफ़्फ़ुज़ दिया और पीपल्स पार्टी ने अक़लियती हकूक़ के तहफ़्फ़ुज़ के लिए कई कवानीन बनाए। मुल्क भर की तरह लाहौर और पंजाब के दीगर अज़ला में भी अक़लियतों का कौमी दिन इस अज़्म के साथ मनाया जा रहा है कि मुल्क की तरक्की में अक़लियतों के किरदार को मज़ीद मौसर और तेज़ किया जाएगा।
इसी हवाले से रिपोर्ट कर रही हैं वर्दा सलीम।
पाकिस्तान मुख्तलिफ मज़ाहिब के मानने वाले अफराद का एक ऐसा खूबसूरत गुलदस्ता है जिसकी खुशबू चार सू फैली है। पाकिस्तान का आइन तमाम अक़लियतों की जानो माल, उनके अकायद और इबादत गाहों को मुकम्मल तहफ़्फ़ुज़ देने का ज़ामिन है। यही वजह है कि वतन अजीज में बसने वाली अक़लियती बरादरी जहाँ एक मिसाली जिंदगी गुजार रही है, वही कौमी तरक्की के अमल में अपना भरपूर किरदार अदा कर रही है। मुल्क के तूलो अर्ज़ में अक़लियतों के मजहबी मकामात को तहफ़्फ़ुज़ फराहम करने के साथ साथ उनकी तज़ीन और आराइश भी की जाती है। पंजाब हुकूमत की तरफ से अक़लियतों को माशी तौर पर मुस्तहकम करने के लिए इमदादी रकूम फराहम की जा रही है और मिनोरिटी कार्ड्स की तादाद को 50,000 से 75,000 तक बढ़ाया जा रहा है।
सीएम पंजाब ये कहती है कि अक़लियत मेरे सर का ताज है, तो ये सिर्फ कहने की हद तक नहीं है, ये हमने प्रैक्टिकली करके दिखाया। चाहे क्रिसमस, होली, ईस्टर, बैसाखी, गुरु नानक जी का जन्मदिन, इन सारे इवेंट्स पे जाके उनको ग्रांट देना और फिर सीएम पंजाब को खुद जाके उनको सेलिब्रेट करना, ये इस बात की गमाजी करता है तमाम पाकिस्तानी बराबर के शहरी हैं।
बानी पाकिस्तान कायदे आज़म ने अक़लियतों के लिए तारीखी अल्फाज कहे थे कि आप आज़ाद हैं अपने मंदिरों में जाने के लिए, अपनी मस्जिदों में जाने के लिए और रियासत पाकिस्तान में अपनी किसी भी इबादत गाह में जाने के लिए। इन अल्फाज की रोशनी में आज पाकिस्तान बैनुल मज़ाहिब हम आहंगी का गहवारा है, जहाँ अक़लियती बरादरी के चेहरों पर मुस्कुराहटें इस तशक्कुर का आकाश है कि वो अपने वतन में आज़ादी और बराबरी के साथ सांस ले रहे हैं। पाकिस्तान की अक़लियतें मुल्क की तरक्की के लिए अपना मुस्बत किरदार अदा कर रही हैं। वर्दा सलीम, पाकिस्तान टेलीविजन न्यूज़, लाहौर।
The few countries that a common man will tell you after China is Azerbaijan and Turkey. I welcome His Excellency the Ambassador of Azerbaijan, Khizr Faradov, to be here and grace this occasion. The people of Pakistan sincerely thank the people of Azerbaijan for standing with us during these 18 days of escalation. Ladies and gentlemen, this book is not about us. This book is not about me and my colleague Ahmad Hassan Al-Arbi. This is the story of valor, courage, and dignity for the motherland. This is the PM, the epic ballad of 250 million brave people. During Second World War, Burma, China, India theater, Chiang Kai-shek had an American general, his commander, known as Joseph Stilwell, also known as Vinegar Joe. He coined a term actually mocking Chiang Kai-shek, that he is a glorified clerk. So I and Ahmad Hassan actually are nothing but glorified clerks tasked to document 18 days of escalation, starting with the Pahalgam carnage on the afternoon of April 22nd and ending on May 10th. We are here today not to celebrate our effort, but to present a ledger of truth in an age of manufactured lies. This book was not conceived in comfort or written in detachment. It was born in the thick of a storm of misinformation, war hysteria, and geopolitical brinkmanship. It chronicles the anatomy of a deception so meticulously crafted that it could have altered the course of South Asian history had it gone unchallenged. On April 22nd, 2025, in the lush meadows of Besaran Valley, Pahalgam, 26 people were slaughtered in cold blood. The victims, tourists from Gujarat, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Karnataka, and beyond, were not just mourned. They were turned into props for a script that declared within minutes that Pakistan was guilty, that Kashmir's resistance was a proxy for foreign terror, and that India's self-righteous fury must be unleashed. We, in this book, raise a question. What if the script was written before the first shot was even fired? We take you back to the days before the carnage, to April 20, when the valley was incomprehensibly opened to tourists without a standard security clearance, to the absence of patrols in one of the most militarized regions in the world. We ask questions about the uncanny speed with which the blame was assigned, suspects were sketched, and the hashtags were weaponized. We follow the trail of inconsistencies. M4 carbines, a weapon from Indian military stockpiles, in the hands of the so-called infiltrators, AI-generated suspect images misidentified by the press, and a telegram claim of responsibility from the resistance front that was retracted within days, dismissed by its own alleged authors as a fabrication. These are not conjectures. These are documented facts, corroborated through intercepted audio, leaked files, payment trails, and digital forensics. They show a tragedy transformed into a political instrument, a manufactured pretext to suspend 65 years old Indus Water Treaty, to rally a domestic electorate, to brand Pakistan as an eternal enemy, and to suffocate the voices of Kashmiri dissent. India's response was not the spontaneous grief of a wounded nation. It was the choreography of a government steeped in the Modi doctrine, where Hindutva is no longer a fringe ideology, but state policy, where 200 million Muslim citizens of India are demonized, and where Pakistan is the permanent scapegoat to mask domestic failures. Within 48 hours, the Indus Water Treaty, a lifeline for the people of Pakistan and a rare testament to decades of fragile peace, was suspended. Prime Minister Modi thundered, "Water and blood cannot flow together." But The Hague's Permanent Court of Arbitration would later rule the suspension illegal, reaffirming that the treaty remains binding until both nations agree to terminate it. By then, the damage was done. The threat to Pakistan's water security had been made, and the precedent of weaponizing the shared resources was set. For 18 days, the region teetered on the edge. We saw diplomatic expulsions, artillery exchanges, civil defense drills, and a media war that turned screaming anchors into generals. But we also saw Pakistan's restraint, offers for neutral investigation, appeals to the United Nations, and the quiet readiness of a military prepared to answer misadventure in every domain. We saw the precision of Operation Bunyanun Marsus, launched on May 10, not as a reckless escalation, but as a calibrated message that Pakistan will respond when pushed, but it will not be baited into war for someone else's political theater. This book is structured to bear witness. It opens with Pahalgam playbook, narrates the chronology of a lie, stories of victims whose grief was weaponized, about the media's jingoism, the rhetorics of leaders, and the convenient framing of the TRF. It moves through the theater of deceit, exposing contradictions, security lapses, and voices defying the official line. It decodes Modi's Hindutva doctrine, places Pahalgam with earlier false flag precedents from Chitty Singhpura to Pulwama, and examines the ideological and strategic aims of this deception. It records in granular detail the 18-day crisis, the build-up, the counter-strike, the operational doctrines, the cyber and electronic warfare, the ceasefire dynamics, and the global diplomatic overtures. And it ends with lessons, strategic takeaways from Bunyanun Marsus, Pakistan's rewriting of the global script, and the aftermath's hard reckoning. We have not written a rebuttal to Indian propaganda. We have excavated the truth beneath it. This is not a counter-narrative. It is the narrative. We did this knowing the risks. Those who orchestrate deception on this scale do not forgive those who expose it. But journalism and history writing is all about the discipline of verification, the courage to speak when silence is safer, and the refusal to let history be written only by the victors. This work belongs to many, to the unnamed intelligence officers and forensic analysts in Pakistan and abroad who brought us hard evidence when easy lies were more accessible, profitable, and could be monetized for eyeballs. This is for the whistleblowers who crossed lines of duty to keep faith and win humanity. This is for every soldier who stood guard while their country was maligned. This is for every journalist who refused to echo the chorus of blame. And this is for the people of Kashmir, whose lullabies are drowned by the hum of drones, whose grief has been misappropriated for someone else's agenda. This book is also a record for the world, a warning that when the international community rewards propaganda with silence, it licenses its reputation. If the world accepts Pahalgam's scripted version as truth, it will normalize deceit as a doctrine. History will record Pahalgam as more than a tragedy. It will record it as the spark that tested Pakistan's diplomatic patience, military discipline, and national unity. History will remember that in those 18 days of escalation, the easier path was rage, but the chosen one was resolve. We stand here today not as victors, but as witnesses. We have simply done our clerical job to log the facts, to preserve the evidence, and to ensure that when history's jury convenes, the record will be complete. So I invite you to read this book not as an accusation, but as a shield, a safeguard against the next weaponization of grief, the next theater of deceit. Because in wars fought with hashtags and deepfakes, with doctored footage and monetized headlines, the first casualty is truth. And the last line of defense is the printed word. The propaganda may trend, but the truth endures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solanki, for the insights and thoughtful words. Now I would like to invite our co-author of the book, an analyst and expert in international relations, foreign policy, and national security, Mr. Ahmed Hassan Al-Arabi. Please join us and debrief us about the book.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin by thanking each one of you for being here today at the launch of The War That Changed Everything. When we talk about South Asia, we must understand that we are not talking about countries that are carved on the map. We are talking about 2 billion people. We are talking about 2 billion lives. And our book, The War That Changed Everything, is an account of the war that took place between 6th and 10th May. A war that truly changed everything, not only in Pakistan, but regionally as well as globally. The war that began with the false flag operation of Pahalgam and within days became the most dangerous confrontation the history of humanity ever witnessed. 2 nuclear-armed nations, eyeball to eyeball, fighting each other. Everyone wants to know what happened on 22nd of April. Everybody wants to know what happened on 23rd or on 6th of May when we downed 6 of their aircrafts, and on 10th when we launched Operation Bunyan Marsus and secured strategic deterrence. While the book covers these minute details, but the focus of this book has also been on the mindset that choreographed, manufactured, and created Pahalgam. The mindset that created Operation Sindoor, the mindset that brought the region at the brink of a nuclear war, a mindset that has been planning an invasion of Pakistan for years, a mindset that thrives on anti-Pakistan sentiment, a mindset that, like a vampire, thrives on the blood of Muslims, and not just Muslims, but other minorities within India. It is the mindset that destroyed 500 churches in last 4 years. It is the mindset that destroyed mosques, the mindset that is famous for so-called bulldozer justice. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Hindutva, which is an ideology which is backed by the BJP government within India. At the heart of Hindutva stand Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, the RSS, a paramilitary organization that visions to dominate India, the organization that is in power today. It has been banned in India 3 times, an organization which is associated with the murder of Mahatma Gandhi and numerous other political violence, and now it controls one of the largest militaries and a nuclear arsenal. Ask yourself, is it a threat to Pakistan only? Certainly not. Hindutva, BJP, RSS are a threat to the world. The concept of Hindu Rashtra translates into a Khand Bharat, a fictitious extremist dream that demands the subjugation of every identity that does not conform with the Hindutva majoritarian framework. It targets not only Pakistan, but Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan. In fact, some of the official religious leaders of India have claimed the right to dominate as far west as Saudi Arabia, even the Holy Kaaba. As the founding father of Pakistan, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, told Arab leaders when he was advocating for Pakistan's creation that the fascism emerging from the east of Pakistan, from India, had to be stopped. That is the reason why Pakistan is a necessity. And it is Pakistan that is holding back these fascists. And now, decades later, you can see exactly the same thing unfolding. The war that changed everything shows how Hindutva doctrine transforms diplomacy into terrorism, dialogue into dictatorship, national security into an electoral weapon. It was an attack. The tragedy of Pahalgam, the event of Pahalgam, was not just an attack on civilians, it was an attack on truth itself. It demonstrated the dangerous precision with which the state can choreograph an incident, mobilize propaganda, and steer a nuclear-armed region to the brink of a war. The world must understand Hindutva is not an internal Indian matter, it's a transnational security threat. It's a toxic recipe that contains every ingredient ever despised by humanity: Islamophobia, misinformation, hubris, and a warped view of the world. Today, the enemy is Pakistan because Pakistan stands in the way of its expansionist designs. Tomorrow, it could be anyone who dares to resist, both within and outside. Ladies and gentlemen, our responsibility as researchers, journalists, policymakers, and citizens is to expose these designs with evidence, to counter falsehood with facts, to ensure that truth is not the first casualty of war. In this book is not merely a rebuttal to propaganda, it is a record for history, because, as Solanki Saab said, while lies may trend, only truth endures. Pakistan, Hamesha Zindabad.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. I think we all feel the heart and soul you have poured into this book. Now, I would like to invite our guest speaker, Mr. Muhammad Idris Khan, who started his career as a journalist with Muslim, a former PSP officer. He has served as DIG Malakand, Kohat, and Banu, the militancy hit areas, also remained Deputy Commandant, Federal Constabulary, earned Valor Medal for fighting militancy, and has worked with UN as Public Security Advisor. Sir, please.
Thank you very much for having me here, and it's a great honor for me to be here. While devouring through this book, I was really impressed with the catchy words and jargons beside the contents. And what else I can say in presence of such a valued gathering, and I'm grateful. I think I shall be speaking later on because my sugar level is a bit down, so forgive me for that. But I recall that while fighting militancy in Swat and Hangu, Mr. Talat Hussain has also been coming there. And I think this book launch should be in KP, because KP is burning in flames these days, and proxy wars that are ignited from Afghanistan in India. So the people should know कि वहाँ पर क्या हो रहा है, और how I found myself as DIG Malakand and cohort fighting the proxies. And this book needs to be, it should be read and conveyed to the people of, KP, because they are now understanding different things. It's better that they should read this book, and we also be, inshallah, reading this book. And I congratulate the author, the co-authors, and the organizers for organizing this August ceremony to enlighten us all on the services, the contribution of the defense services, and exposing the propaganda, the false propaganda that was that has been, enrolled, it has been in air and in press everywhere by the Indian hegemonic style of, warmongering. And I recall, one Mr. Baitullah, when I was in Hangu, and Mr. Talat had also, visited us, though there was such a difficult situation that he couldn't reach us. So wahan par I, was DPO, and Mr. Baitullah Mahsood, a known or notorious character, he called me and he asked me, why, are you doing all this? And I'll fire you and I'll kill you. So I told him, why? Are you not fleshy? Don't you have flesh? Or you are stoned? You will not be killed. You only, we can be killed. And then Mr. One Brigadier Hilal Saab was, in Hangu, and we cheered him. But the most important thing that I wanted to share here is that one gentleman, in the meanwhile, while we combated them and, they fled away, one gentleman called me, and since his number was saved with me, so I said, where are you? We are in trouble. We have been encircled by militants, and you are, he said, in Pashto, he said, Bachshwi, you are saved. Why? Because you are gunman with the DSP. He said, no, you didn't know. I was, an infiltrator. So he told me that, you can't, get hold of me because I'm in Afghanistan. And it was the time, dear sir, Mr. Talasab, it was the time when the embassies were, established on the border in Afghanistan, on the border with Pakistan. So this, the proxy side of the, this war or terrorism, and he was, a gunman with the DSP, and, because he was like our informer. That's why I had saved his number. So then I was in Swat, and I must share these, because these great writers and journalists, they have spoken much on the topic. So I'll just share my experiences, and that's also with the permission of these distinguished journalists and guests. We were in Swat, and Mr. Talat Saab had also come there, and there is an area in Upper Swat that is called Mata. In Mata, there is Shower. Shower leads into Swat. Swat leads into Bajawad, and that is into Afghanistan. So what we would do, that when we would chase them, they would just rush to Peshawar and to later on to Afghanistan. So this is what I had to say. Thank you very much for your time and bearing me despite the fact that my sugar was low. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We are grateful for your time and for your words. Next, I would like to call Mr. Syed Talat Hussain, a renowned Pakistani journalist with his contributions in all fields of media and public education. He is known for his sharp, crisp, and surgical analysis of Pakistan's regional and global affairs. Sir, please say a few words.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. His Excellency, Ambassador of Azerbaijan, diplomats, bureaucrats, my journalist colleagues that I see in great number here, students, researchers, representatives of other institutions who are also here, and my colleagues, the camera crew. Great to be here this morning. Idris Saab has very kindly attributed valor to me. I was only doing my duty. I just happened to be there, like so many of other colleagues who were there. I'll give you a perspective on, a journalist perspective on this book. I have a tendency to read text that is sent to me, so I did read this book, all 298 pages. And the citations are also quite remarkable, I think 586 or something. From a journalist point of view, so much has happened in the past 3 or 4 months that it's hard to keep count. So for me, the first value of the book is that it gives you a great chronology of how things unfolded and what happened at what particular point in time and who said what. So it is more like a reference book for me. Dr. Hassan and Solanki Saab, just to let you know that I did put a rigorous audit of your sourcing, and 10% of your sources were put to AI, and they did check out. So you can congratulate yourself that AI also endorses your sourcing. So it's a remarkably well-sourced and cited book. And these are not like Wikipedia sources, these are authentic sources. So for me, the value is in sourcing and citation and chronology. The other is that when you put all this information together, it creates a picture. It gives you a sense of why things were happening the way they were happening. So there's no big interpretation of those events, but the information is put together in such a way that you would find a picture to emerge. And this is not just a picture about Indian attack on Pakistan. It's a picture of what designs Indians can create to carry forward their strategic agenda. So I find it fascinating that the fundamental job that we do as journalists is to document history. And though these days journalism is more opinion than fact, but academicians have done a remarkable job of putting together fact and therefore squeeze a space for opinion, because facts speak for themselves. You don't have to agree with everything that the book says. I certainly would find issue with certain interpretations, but we're entitled to our opinions. We're not entitled to our facts. And I think that's the real value of the book. And certain things that came to my knowledge, these were oversights. I could not chase them at that particular point in time. For instance, the X-Files that you had put out there, we had heard about them in the thick of the war at that time. I did not read them when we were covering it. But here I got the opportunity to read each and every transcript that was given. And again, when you read things, they give you a sense of reality. So there's a lot of great material there. It also gives you pretty much everything. It gives you a sense of what Hindutva is, what the Asian or the Hindu Machiavellian Chanakya or Chanakya, depending on which pronunciation you want to use, how that ideology seeps into the RSS ideology and what big designs they have, not just with regard to Pakistan, but with regard to Asia as well. I think it also has a certain foresight that is available. and I think it's on page 233 or somewhere, and it makes it quite amazing because when this book was written, the events of the last 36 hours in which the Indian Air Chief was claiming that they had shot down after, it's an afterthought, 6 Pakistan aircraft, or perhaps they were there on ground and they kind of killed them, depending on, again, how you interpret what he said. Those things had not happened. But the book talks about the possibility of another limited showdown between India, Pakistan, created by the Indians as a casus belli against Pakistan, some event in the window of September and October this year. And it also talks about another bigger war in year 2027. So when I read that para, I thought, this was really kind of hyperbolic. But having seen the events of the last 36 hours, I can tell you that this is great foresight. They cite it to be the work of intelligence assessments, that India will probably do something in September, October, and then another attack is planned in year 2027. And now Indians are kind of, ratcheting it up and taking it to that level where a context is being created for another conflict. So that way, it is not really history. It is also futuristic. You would also find a lot of value in terms of handy references. We do a daily grind kind of work, and we need to go back to our research sources. So I keep this book with me most of the time because I need to go back to, again, as I said, who said what and what was said at what particular point in time. And the book is available as a handy tool of information. It does miss out on a few things. I think I would have wanted, given the fact that Dr. Hassan does a lot of work in IR, the regional and the global context to it. There is enough material out there to suggest that India's attack on Pakistan or provocation against Pakistan is not just a lone South Asian event. It is closely connected with what Israel did to Iran, and perhaps also backwards connected with what Putin did to Ukraine. So if you were to sort of put these wars in that context, there seems to be a new paradigm emerging where bigger powers want to grab territory, kowtow, and force smaller countries into submission and expand the area of influence. So something much bigger than India-Pakistan confrontation is happening right around our borders. Perhaps the next book should be focusing on that as well. Now, the best part of the book is that it is fresh from the oven and it is not written like 8 years down the line. And this is a trend in Pakistan which has to be welcomed and thoroughly applauded because, number one, we are not given to reading much, and I went to Said Book Bank last night to check whether the book will be displayed there or not, because Solanki Sahib gave me a thadda of soft text which I had to print and create my own book. So I was looking for a hardcover, which I'm sure I'll get now. And I asked them, what is the book reading trend in Pakistan, and they said that it's on the decline. And one reason for that is that books that are out there seem outdated. This is a generation that wants to see things now in the present and wants to know about events that are impacting their lives as they live them on a daily basis. This book does exactly that. So kudos to you for coming out with great documentation of a big event. You would find a lot of strain of nationalism in this book. I'm not big on nationalism, I'm big on patriotism, and there's a difference between the two. But you could contest the authors on their interpretation, but I think you'll have a very hard time contesting on their research. So it's authentic, you should all read it. Great to know that young generation is sitting there. Pick up this book, go through it, and 50 chapters, make it like a pre-digested food for you. So you don't have to labor through running text. So there are headlines and sub-headlines and chapters and sub-chapters. So you can pick and choose. So you don't have to spend long hours and burn the candle from both ends in case there's load shedding in your household. You can just do it while sitting in a restaurant or standing and waiting for a flight to catch and read a few chapters. So again, great contribution, and I'm very glad that I got to read the raw paper of the text. Now I am looking forward to getting the hard copy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think your words have truly added value to the gathering. Next, I am honored to welcome Engineer Khurram Dastagir Khan, a distinguished leader, seasoned parliamentarian, a former federal minister for many federal ministries, including defense. He is a prominent policy maker, veteran intellectual, and a security analyst. And for full transparency, a very good friend of Mr. Murtaza Solanki. Welcome, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Solanki Saab, for roping me into this. And he roped me in by sending me a soft copy a few days ago. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon in front of such a distinguished audience. Ladies and gentlemen, after having gone through the book, I think all of us owe a debt of gratitude to the authors for writing the first draft of history that just happened 3 months ago. And as Talat Sahib very rightly said, this is a first draft of history based scrupulously on the rough draft of history, which is journalism and our daily news that we read. But the authors have saved us the trouble and put together this very valuable volume, which to my mind, because of its timeliness, has created a baseline for future historians and continues Pakistan's unprecedented strategic communications campaign that began with such distinction during Marka-e-Haq. I also see this book as part of there's no other word for it, an ongoing miracle of Marka-e-Haq, in which we Pakistanis do not wait for a few years for Western authors to write their books on us and tell us what happened in our country. So it's wonderful to see a timely book, and I think it's a miracle that they have published within 3 months of the war, the first consolidated, multifaceted account, analysis, as well as some thought on the consequences of Marka-e-Haq. What I found most interesting, I think I want to emphasize this, as Mr. Solanki and Mr. Al-Arabi have written, it is also the miracle, ladies and gentlemen, of a Pakistan fortified unexpectedly, elevated strategically, unified domestically, and repositioned globally. Something that we did not expect, I would say, on the 5th of May, 2025. So there might be a little bit of exaggeration in the title of the book, but yeah, it did change a great deal. It is a moment that we should see clearly. Because first we have to behold the ashes of Hindutva's hubris. There's an ash heap on which on the top lie the charred remains of Indian air defense. But underneath there are cinders of Indian ambitions, which for the time being are burnt beyond recognition. Their ambition to become a permanent member of the UN Security Council, their ambitions for regional hegemony, their ambitions to prove a counterweight to China, their ambition and their designation as net security provider in the Indo-Pacific region, their ambition of de-hyphenating themselves from Pakistan, and their ambition to use the Israeli playbook in Kashmir. So all these ambitions, if we decide to be very realistic and say that they are not destroyed completely, but a tremendous setback is there for us to see. And if the punitive tariffs that have been imposed on India and equally punitive rhetoric coming out of the White House is any guide, the United States seems to be rediscovering that there is an ash heap where India used to be. And it's not just this defeat in war, it is this long array of diplomatic debacles that has followed Hindutva's military defeat. In direct contradiction to PM Modi's protestations, President Trump has to date taken credit more than 36 times for ceasefire in the Indo-Pak war. The US President, to my mind, has added insult to injury by using the words mediate, Kashmir, and he has re-hyphenated India and Pakistan. These are all notions that are inimical to India's inflated self-image of transcending South Asia. Again, something that we did not foresee or could imagine on the 5th of May, 2025. And what we have seen, I think it's worth noticing that India's post-war diplomatic efforts to prosecute and damage Pakistan in FATF, in IMF, in the World Bank, in SCO and BRICS have all failed. And let me quote the famous French Foreign Minister Talleyrand on what Operation Sindoor has turned out to be. And he said, "C'est plus qu'un crime, c'est un faux." It was worse than a crime, it was a mistake. It turned out to be a mistake. And it exposed India's military limitations, it exposed India's pretensions, and against all expectations, even our own expectations. I think, again, I keep emphasizing what our expectations were on the 5th of May, that we have essentially sort of given up Pakistan's serious role in South Asia and said, yeah, India is too strong. It spends like 11 times each year on defense than we do. But what happened in the war that changed everything is that Pakistan's outmaneuvered and outclassed an enemy an order of magnitude bigger in economy, bigger in population, and bigger in conventional arms. And in doing so, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan has sent a pretender superpower reeling back into the rank of middle powers. So this pretension of that India is a great power and it's a rising power, for the time being at least, it is back in the rank of middle powers. And we should not be complacent or too happy about this, because, of course, they will regroup and they will try to sort of gather their national power and national strengths together to regain what they have lost. But what we have gained, ladies and gentlemen, and I think the authors write in the book, is, I'll quote them, Pakistan has long stood at the receiving end of international skepticism. How many soldiers we bury or how many children we mourn makes no difference. No matter how often we warn of Indian adventurism or submit dossiers to the United Nations, we are more often than not judged guilty before we can prove our innocence. This is what changed. If not, again, not completely, but at least we have begun to change this. And Pakistan's victory, still it seems to me, I will be very candid, was an entirely unexpected expression of national power. who look into these things, because I believe that this triumph is all the more staggering because it came in the middle of a milieu of disillusionment with the Pakistani state. And as we all have been watching, one particular political party has been on the warpath. It has raised the specter of the national breakup by invoking 1971 and has been attacking all institutions of the state and their leaders in a very, very harsh manner. Yet, when it counted during those 4 days, Pakistan's civilian and military leadership came together. Some people will disagree with this, but the truth is that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir, they showed unprecedented coordination. And the three armed forces also came together in an unprecedented battlefield integration. Again, something that we didn't expect. And what this harmony has done is, it has vindicated Pakistan's now many decades old but recent deepening of strategic relationship with China. And this has also stunned the world. I was fortunate to be a member of the Prime Minister's delegation that was sent in June to the United Nations, to Washington, to UN, to the UK and European Union. And our delegation strengths were three. And again, it's part of what the war has changed. The first, of course, our strength was that we were victorious. Wonderful. But the second was that we did not seek any military or budgetary support from our hosts. All through our visit, we were just there to say what we needed to say without asking for anything in return except diplomatic support. And the third was, and this is the fact that remained, that Pakistan has sought and is seeking peace while India apparently is embarked on a perpetual war and wants to plunge us in a perpetual war. And what we saw during our visit was that Afghanistan and the US presence is now fading from memory. So this automatic hostility towards Pakistan is fading. What we also saw that Pakistan is also benefiting from India's retreat from United Nations. Might be temporary, but it is at the moment retreating. But we also found that our brotherly Islamic countries are rediscovering Pakistan. And there is wide empathy with Pakistan regarding our stance on the Indus Waters Treaty, both in the UN and EU. EU particularly is very keen on salvaging the rules-based order. So this is a unique, positive, strategic moment for Pakistan. And the question that we keep asking, and many very learned and skeptical people in the audience will keep asking, is, how long will this moment last? Will it be weeks, months? So what can Pakistan do to consolidate its gains? And the only way is to venture out boldly into the international arena. And we must continue beating the drum for restoration of the Indus Waters Treaty and overall respect for international treaties, and of course for nuclear restraint. But a clear message to India must go out. And I'll quote here Emil Simpson from his book, War from the Ground Up. And he said, this is our message to India. If you want stability in the world, you have to have clear strategic boundaries that seeks to compartmentalize conflicts and not aggregate them. If you don't box in your conflicts with clear strategic boundaries, chronological boundaries, conceptual boundaries, geographical boundaries, and legal boundaries, then you experience a proliferation of violence. This is what we need to avoid. And this message to India must be repeated and must go out clearly. And therefore, our first task, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm concluding here now, is for Pakistan is prepare for the next war. So we have to fill the gaps. Some gaps were exposed during this war that changed everything. So we need to fill the gaps. And it will also require, to my mind, having held this portfolio of defense, a new and untrammeled analysis of Pakistan's defense forces' tooth-to-tail ratio, followed by a ruthless optimization of resources. We must also begin a diplomatic campaign by becoming the foremost advocate for lower riparian water rights. We must aggressively champion a successor to SAARC with China as a member and to at least move toward the South Asia without India. And we should continue our diplomatic initiative by sending smaller delegations to converse regularly with the European Commission and EU Parliament. It is the moment, ladies and gentlemen, to take neither friend nor foe as permanent. And Pakistan's newfound salience we should use it to reach out to friends, but also reach out to our critics and not so friendly nations. And we have to also begin a dialogue with environmental and water organizations worldwide. We should also realize, ladies and gentlemen, that the danger is clear and present. We have a ceasefire, we do not have peace. It looks like peace, but there is no peace. And as we have seen, the embers of Hindutva's anti-Muslim and anti-Pakistan hate continue to glow. They keep baiting us with eat bread, otherwise my bullet is here. A ceasefire is a pause, it is a trailer, and there was no question of returning to the Indus Waters Treaty. So as has been correctly foreseen in the book also, that Hindutva cannot bear the disgrace and will lash out in anger. So this disgrace and anger, these are not strategic concepts, ladies and gentlemen. They arise from somewhere else, and therefore are all the more dangerous. And again, has been pointed out, after the monsoon season recedes in a few weeks, PM Modi will have the first opportunity to stop waters of the Chenab and Jhelum rivers. That is a fact, which of course in turn, if he does so, will trigger the policy of Pakistan National Security Committee that any attempt to stop or divert the flow of water will be an act of war. It's a rare, hopeful and positive time, but it's also a time of peril, and it's time of clear analysis. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will conclude by saying that it is rare for nations to be granted an opportunity for a strategic reset. After a quarter-century of internal strife and international suspicion, Marka-e-Haq has provided Pakistan with this rare, precious moment. Shakespeare said long ago, "There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. And on such a full sea, we are now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures." It is time for the Pakistani state to draw the right lessons, global as well as domestic, from the war, and not fall prey either to hubris or to complacency. We must seize this strategic moment, and I'm delighted to say that Murtaza Solanki and Ahmad Al-Arabi's book has illuminated our way forward. Pakistan Paindabad. Wama alayna illa al-balagh.
Thank you, sir. Your words and presence is appreciated. Next, we would like to open the floor for a question and answering session. If you have
सीनियर सहाफ़ी और साबिक निगरान वफाकी वज़ीर मुर्तज़ा सोलंकी की अपनी किताब द वॉर दैट चेंज्ड एवरीथिंग की तकरीब रूनुमाई से खिताब कर रहे थे। दीगर मुकर्रीन ने भी खिताब किया। मुर्तज़ा सोलंकी ने खिताब करते हुए कहा कि पाकिस्तान बेपनाह कुर्बानियों के नतीजे में हमें मिला। हमारे मज़हब में तमाम मज़ाहब को मुकम्मल आज़ादी हासिल है। किताब में हालिया पाक भारत से मुतालिक तहलका खेज़ इंकशाफात शामिल हैं। उन्होंने कहा कि किताब में भारतीय रियासती दहशतगर्दी को तारीखी पस मंज़र में बयान किया गया है। ऑपरेशन बुनियानुल मरसूस के बाद एक नया पाकिस्तान दुनिया के नक्शे पर उभरा है। भारत को सिंतास मुआहिदे का पाबंद बनाया जाना चाहिए।
दुरुस्त हर वक्त बार वक्त